In our second video is how to feed a worm bin. And like I've said, you can feed it with a compost by adding, say, about a 2 or 3 centimeter layer of compost. Remember, these worms consume about their own body weight per day in food. So like I mentioned, we've put in 50 grams of worms. That means that these worms can eat about 50 grams of food. Now you're going to say, okay, I'm going to take a scale and I'm going to take some spinach and some lettuce and some pumpkin. I'm going to put it on a scale, and that's 50 grams. I'm going to feed it to the worms, 50 grams every day. Remember, a lot of this is moisture, right? So it's not solid food. So you need to feed them around about 150 grams of food scraps per day. Or alternatively 50 grams of compost, or say 70 grams of compost, because the compost has also got some moisture in it. So certain foods, like on the back of the bin, it's got that quick guide, and some of the foods that comes from our kitchen is not suitable for worm bins. One of the reasons is all the acidic stuff. A worm doesn't have a skin like we've got. So it's a lot like the fleece on your eye. So it's very sensitive. So if you take chili and you rub it in your eye, it's going to burn like crazy, right? The same thing with citrus. If you take citrus peel and you squeeze it and it gets into your eye, it's going to burn. So you don't want to put this in a worm bin, because it's going to burn the worms as well. They don't like this. The same thing with tomatoes, whether it's a big tomato, cherry tomato. Tomatoes are acidic. The same thing with onions and garlic, stuff like that. We don't want to put that in the bin. The worms don't like it. Cereals, if you put cereal in there, it's going to go all moldy, and it's going to start rotting. So we want to avoid cereals at all costs. The same with dairy products. We don't want to add any dairy products in here. That's also going to cause bad odors. The same with meat. You don't want to put meat in there. Bad odors. It's going to attract flies. We don't want this bin to be a nasty bin. We want to keep it healthy. So those are some of the basic stuff that needs to be avoided. Sharp food with lots of spices in it, lots of salt, lots of sugar. We've got to stay away from those as well. Okay, so let's get to the good stuff, and those are bananas or banana peels, very high in potassium. They love potato. You can take the eggshells from your breakfast, dry them out, you can crunch them, put them into the container, and then all your leafy greens like lettuce, spinach, you can put cucumber in there, and if you really want to confuse a worm and make it die of hunger, you put a piece of pumpkin on the one side, and you put a piece of pawpaw on the other side, and you put the worm in the middle, because it's going to go pumpkin, pawpaw, and it's going to die of hunger, okay? It's because those are their two favorite foods. That's what they love most. And we can add these food scraps to the bin whole. But I like to spoil the worms. You know, they don't have teeth, they don't have big mouths. So what I do is I take some pumpkin, and I take some spinach, and I take some lettuce, and I even take the eggshells, and I'll take some of the banana. I'm not going to put the whole banana in, because it's still a new bin that we've just started. So I'll take some banana, and then I'll take some potato. I'll put some potato in, and then the worms absolutely love newspaper. For some reason, they just love the ink that's in the newspaper, and that's very good for them. So you can add some newspaper, and remember those beer boxes that I've cut up. You always have offcuts. So you can cut those into smaller pieces and chuck some of that into the liquidizer as well. And then we're just going to add some water to it, because like this it won't liquidize. So we add some water to it. Another piece of potato. And then we're just going to liquidize this. and you'll see that the particles are very small now, so it's much easier for the worms to work with this. And the worms don't actually eat the food. They eat when you put this in here, mold starts growing on the food, and the worms will come up and they will eat the mold. So as fast as the food can grow mold, the worms will eat the mold. So what we do is we take the lid off, we take off our piece of cardboard, we take that out, and we just pour the liquidized food on top. We're not going to mix it into the bedding of the worms, because remember we said they don't want to be disturbed, they want to be left at peace. So the only reason, or the only time you will actually dig in there is to see if the worms are still healthy, if they're fine, you know, if they're active, if they duck for cover, you know they're happy. If they just lie there and they wait, you must know there's something wrong, you know. And in most instances it's just too cool. So what you can do is take some of the worm chow. Like I said, this has got all the vitamins, all the minerals, and it's got some more grit. The eggshells is also part of the grit that you need to feed them. And you can just take a slightly heaped spoon like this. Each one of these containers comes with a spoon, and sprinkle it on top. Now this is a dry powder, and we said the bin needs to be moist, the food needs to be wet for the worms to eat it. But that will quickly absorb some of the moisture that we've just added to the bin, so you don't need to wet that again. And then you can just cover the food with the wet cardboard again and replace the lid. And that's how easy it is to feed the worms. And this you can do. At first I wouldn't feed them every single day, because remember it's a new bin, and the worms need to multiply, and they will double in numbers every 3 months. So you start off with round about between 400 and 500 worms, but let's say 500. So in 3 months from now there should be 1,000 worms in here. In 6 months from now 2,000, and in 9 months from now about 4,000 worms. And in that many months, you'll probably about 8 or 9 months, feeding them 2 or 3 or 4 times a week, the bin's level will increase. And when it gets time to harvest this, you can take the cardboard off. By then you would have replaced this top cardboard a couple of times, because they will actually eat into the cardboard. So you take the cardboard off, you empty out the whole bin into a shallow container, and you go sit in bright light. Okay, so the worms are going to start going down into the middle, because remember they want to escape the bright light. So and this is a bit painstaking, but it's actually quite nice doing. And then you start taking off the top layer of the castings and you put that aside until you get to worms. Then you wait about 5 minutes for them to go deeper, and you repeat the process. Eventually you're going to be left with a little bit of castings like that, but when you pick it up and you turn it over, it's going to be one big ball of red wigglers inside. Let's say in 9 months from now you harvest the worm castings, and you see, okay, I've got about 4,000 worms in here. You can go buy yourself a couple of bins. It's not difficult making these holes. You take a soldering iron and you just heat it up, and it's very quick to make the holes. Don't drill them with a drill, because then you sit with all those little pieces of plastic. It's much easier with a soldering iron. And then you can divide those worms and decide. You don't have to put 500 worms in here only. You can start with 2,000 worms if you like, because then you can feed it more. The worm bin will be ready in a shorter period of time. You can actually build your own worm farms and increase the capacity of manufacturing your own compost tea or your worm tea, and manufacturing your own worm castings. And then the worm castings that you've harvested, you can just sprinkle that in your vegetable garden or around your fruit trees. And remember, when you've got a fruit tree, now you've got the stem and you've got the branches like that. Alright, where are you going to feed that plant? Because a lot of the people make a little valiki around the stem of the tree, and they give it water and they give it food there. But all the fine hair roots are in the drip line of the tree. So where the branches ends, that's where you need to feed your fruit trees. That's where they can take up the most nutrients. All the big, thick roots are at the trunk of the tree, and the finer root system is at the end of the tree, so that's where you will feed it. And the product that you manufacture here is very safe to use on any type of plant. All your edibles, all your flowering plants, your fruit trees, your animals won't eat this like they would with bone meal, for instance. If you add bone meal to the soil, they won't dig into the soil to go after this. And this will increase the nutrient value of your soil. It will increase the microbial activity. We need the microbes to break down whatever fertilizer you give, even if it's, especially when it's organic fertilizer. That fertilizer is not in a form where the plant can absorb it. It needs to be broken down by microorganisms, and then the plant can absorb it. So you will also find that when you build the structure of your soil, in other words, putting as much organic matter back into your soil as you can, other earthworms will start populating your garden. And the day before yesterday, I did the same presentation, and someone asked me, but why can't I just take the earthworms from my garden and put them into a bin like this? They're a total different species. These are called red wigglers. They like eating food scraps. They're not your ordinary garden earthworms. The ones in your garden can go as deep as 3 meters down into the soil, and in a bin like this they won't be able to go down, so they're going to climb out and see if they can find the right habitat to live in. Those earthworms doesn't like food scraps. They like leaves and twigs and stuff that normally occurs in your garden. So don't try and feed them pawpaw or pumpkin. They don't like it. They want to be in your garden. They want to be in soil. These worms can't be in soil. They want to be in humus-rich substrate, in other words, compost, or then the food scraps that you feed them. So, are there any questions so far? Excuse me. Like I said in the beginning, I would only feed them about twice a week. The worm chow. Every time you put in food scraps, you can sprinkle 1 spoon of this on top. Okay. And then I've also got a few more products that I just want to quickly introduce you to before we end off. And these are new products on the market, and I'm very keen to show you these. And you're going to say to me, but there's always been bone meal on the market. This is a microfine bone meal. So it's grounded a lot finer than your normal bone meal, and you can afterwards come up and have a look at this. Like I said, the microorganisms needs to break it down. So if you've got big chunks of bone meal, it's going to take forever to break down. This is a lot quicker. Then we've got another product called kelp meal, and that will, if you add that to your garden, that will strengthen all the cells inside the plant. So even in the fruit and veg, you will have stronger cells. It will have a longer, like with fruit and veg, it will have a longer shelf life, a better taste, and much more nutrients. And then we've got a product called blood meal, and this contains 15% nitrogen. So if you've got plants that don't want to grow fast, or the leaves go a bit yellow, you can add this to your soil. Because it's an organic product, it's not a fast acting product, but in about 2 weeks from adding this to your soil, you will find that the leaves goes green very quickly. And then we've got AgriBoost, which is liquid seaweed extract. And this you can dilute 50 milliliters to 5 liters of water and just water your plants with it. This is a very quick acting solution for getting your plants in a faster growing state again. So these products will soon be available at retail nurseries. Again, if you get to one of your local nursery and they don't stock it, ask them to get it. All right. So I've got a couple of handouts that I want to do. And the first person who can tell me what worms we're using here can have. Okay. And at what temperature will these worms start dying? Right? Mine, oh no, 5 degrees, but you can have the coffee mug. Okay. And am I correct to say that we leave this out in the full sun? There's a couple of license disc stickers. If you want to put that on your car, sir, would you like some license disc stickers? And so why wouldn't we feed chilies and citrus to? Right. I think it's fair for a couple to have. Yeah. You know, I've actually made a discovery. If you've got 2 children and you want to buy them each a worm bin, and you think they're going to fight whose bin is whose bin. If you've seen, this bin has got that sticker on that side, and this bin has got that sticker on, so they're different, eh? Not if you turn them over. Okay. Okay. Anyone can tell me why we don't use high gloss paper? It's just a little notebook and a pen. So next time when I speak, you can take notes. Right, are there any questions? Say again? Yes, yes. The lady asks if there's a restriction on how much or how often you can use worm tea in your garden, and the answer is no. The more often you do it, the better. So it's not like a chemical fertilizer which contains salts and can burn your plants. It's a 100% organic fertilizer. You can add as much or as little to your plants as you like. So if you've got a lot of worm tea, a lot of people say you can store it, but you have to put it in a brown bottle and keep it away from light and sun. But I would much rather use it fresh. And I mean, this bin is going to constantly manufacture new worm tea. So if you feed it like we've done now with the liquidized food, if you feed it 3 or 4 times a week, you're probably going to get a liter of worm tea, so that you can dilute with about 10 liters of water. So you've already got 11 liters of water to water your plants with. Most homes have got very small gardens, or you know, even if you look at townhouses and so on, container gardening is a big thing, and you're going to have ample, you know. And what's nice about the worm farm is this stuff doesn't end up in the trash anymore, and you're making a very high quality fertilizer, liquid fertilizer, and a solid fertilizer with it. So you become part of the recycling system. Although it's on a very small scale, it does make a difference. And by composting it this way, you know, we're adding value to what we leave behind. So you know, and our carbon footprint gets smaller. So there are just so many, and it's nice doing it. You know, it gives you something to do. Okay, normally these worm farms retail at 800 Rand or roughly about 800 Rand at a garden center. I've got a kit that's not built yet with everything in it for 700 Rand today. And if somebody's interested in buying this one, you can have it for half price at 400 Rand. Any more questions? You can buy the worms separately, you can buy the worm food separately, you can buy the manual separately. The kit works out a bit cheaper, but you can buy the components separately. Right. So thank you for listening to me. And remember to go to my YouTube channel. There's lots and lots of gardening tips, lots of product information on how easy it is to garden. So you don't need green fingers, just watch a video and copy it.
Thank you so much, Jan.
Refresh your garden with the Bark Unlimited range of top quality organic products. Spark Unlimited Organics. Refresh nature.